ready for the interview. And if you get a cue live on the laptop, watch what I'm gonna do. Welcome to the show, let them know we got a point of view. Hey, yo, let's have a combo. Say what you feel, be real, that's the motto. Real talk pronto, Dr. D, PhD, hit an intro. Hold up, wait, gotta be social. Network, global, a home for the local. Gotta be social. Network, global, a home for the local.
Okay, so we were talking about your passionate work with homeless tent camps and things. So, and I was going to ask you before we kind of got disconnected there was, where does this passion come from to want to do this work?
I've always had a deep, deep, deep sense of empathy and compassion for people. I've always been unable to look away from human suffering. And I think that the world is kind of divided into a few camps when it comes to especially the homeless community. Because I think that there are people who they see human suffering and, like myself, they feel compelled to try and do what they can do within their own power to lessen that suffering. And then you have the people who don't feel that compulsion or desire to do something to help it. And they're, I think, subdivided into kind of a couple of categories. There's the people who see the suffering, it makes them feel uncomfortable and guilty because of their privilege, and they choose to turn a blind eye because it's too uncomfortable for them to view it and register it and take that in. And then there's people who not only don't feel compelled to help, but they choose to believe that the suffering is somehow deserved or a result of personal choices with zero regard for all of the myriad factors that contribute to the issue. But they actually resent and hate the homeless community for simply existing. And I've seen that hatred and vitriol from community members coming through the park and interacting with us at the tent city. And it's the ugliest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
And what's interesting is that despite all my privilege, when I've been there long enough doing a shift there, I blend in quite well as a member of the encampment, and a lot of community members, outside of the encampment, mistake me for somebody residing in the encampment. And then I've gotten to experience how those people treat and interact with the homeless community, because they are treating me as if I am a member of the homeless community. And that includes police interactions. Yeah. I've had police when police have come to the site, which has happened on various occasions for various things, issues, or people. When being asked for the basic information that they legally have to share, such as their names and badge numbers and what authority they are on in enacting what they are doing in that moment, they have said things to me and other organizers like, I don't have to tell you shit. You live in a tent. You're nothing, blah, 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 blah. And in fact, we had a 17-year-old volunteer who herself used to be a homeless youth who has now just graduated from high school, been accepted to a university. She's, you know, really pulled herself out of a terrible situation and managed to achieve so much. And she's just the most amazing, inspiring young woman. And she cares so much about the homeless and especially the homeless youth. And so she has been volunteering her time. And I watched her get assaulted by a police officer when they had come to take a minor from the tent city,
Yeah.
illegally, actually. And yeah, but she was pushed to the ground by a police officer. Um, yeah, it's quite interesting to see how the police interact with you when they believe that you're a member of the
Right.
homeless community. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And as a Black man in the US,
I'm
I'm
well
sure
aware.
you're a little aware that the police are really only nice to some people.
You-
So,
Well, you know what's interesting about that too is like, okay, so like if I'm on the highway and someone's like speeding like crazy and they're going, you know, and I see them go by, and let's say it's a white person, and I go, man, I really don't have that luxury to like
yeah,
get pulled over and be like, well, I was a mistake. You know, like I got to put my hands outside the window immediately because you're taught this, you're taught the drill
yeah,
when you're Black. And so, you know, I understand how people see different populations of people differently. Whereas
right,
other people just have this blind spot to it. They just think, what's the big deal? I'm having fun doing this. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't work that way for me.
right.
Like, you know,
And that's privilege. Yeah, that's
exactly.
privilege. Yeah.
Yeah. How do
And I,
they, well, how do like, do people know what you do for a living when you're volunteering down there?
yeah, I've tried to actually be vocal about it because it was the original funding for this action. And one thing that I think I had started to get to and not actually fully elaborated on is the fact that not only is this tent city serving as the shelter space for these individuals, it's also a political action to put pressure on local government to take action to address this housing crisis, and substance use crisis and opioid overdose
Yeah.
crisis. And as well, it's serving as yet another space. So it actually takes some of the pressure off of the other encampments that were pre-existing, that were set up just by the homeless community themselves. Because that's the difference between our tent city and the other encampments, is that this was set up by organizers who are by and large housed community members. We just give a shit more than local government does about these
Yeah.
people who are struggling. Um, yeah. So, I forgot what you're
No, I was saying basically kind of make a connection between like the sex work that you do and people, do they know
Oh,
that you're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
this?
So
Yeah.
I've actually, yeah. So because when we set it up, it was by and large the labor and the funding and everything was provided by myself and other sex workers. And so it has been, because of the stigma that we face, because of all of that, it has been important to me to be open about the fact that I am a sex worker, that the money I make from doing sex work has funded this place, and continues to do so. I can't even remember the last thing that I just like bought for myself as a nice thing, because
Mm.
like it's literally so much more satisfying to me to put food in the mouths of hungry people, or buy a homeless teen a pair of sneakers. And that like is way more satisfying to me than any little thing that I could get for myself. Um But yeah, so it is important to me that I make people aware that it is that I am a sex worker, because people do have such misconceptions about sex workers.
Yes, I would
Yeah.
say so. And I think what was one of the more beautiful things about your last appearance on my podcast was the amount of people who were just very shocked by you being so open about
Mm,
it. And I was
mm.
just talking to someone else I'm producing a series with on my podcast, and they were like, anytime you talk to Aubrie, I will listen to that. That woman's amazing.
Uh,
And yes, her name's Carmel Clark. She's a huge fan of yours. She's amazing.
oh, oh, that's so nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Hi,
she,
Carmel.
but yeah,
Thank
she would love that, by the way. She's in like Portugal right now doing some work. But other day we were in a meeting. I said, oh, I'm going to have Aubrie back on. She's like, oh, this is mind blowing. I can't wait to listen to this. I cannot wait to, just like between you and her, these are like amazing conversations, you know?
Oh, that's lovely. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
thought you'd enjoy hearing that, you know,
Yeah,
like,
that's really a nice boost. Thank you.
yeah. Cause I think like you're very different in this. Okay. Let's put it this way. I
Well,
mean, I've
and
had,
I mean, but it again, I think it's important that we recognize that I am so open about it because I have the privilege to be able to be open about it.
yeah.
And that privilege is because of a number of things. Like, I'm just a pretty normal, well-spoken white woman, right? If I were a trans woman, if I were a Black woman, if I were an Indigenous woman, I would face more risk of
Yeah.
retaliation by police, by people who just
Right.
hate people because they're full of hatred, etc. But also because uniquely, like, I am a parent. I have two teens myself, but they know what I do. Everybody important in my life knows what I do. So there's no threat to me, um, for people to know what I do. Like, they can stigmatize me. They can be prejudiced against me, I guess, but their opinion of me doesn't matter. The only opinions that matter are the people, like my loved ones, and my loved ones
Yeah.
are fine with it. So and I'm a career whore now. Like, I
Yeah.
have no aspirations for other career. So the fact that so many doors are closed to me because of me being outspoken about this doesn't actually impact what I'm trying to do, um, career wise. So I'm able to be open about it. And
Yeah.
actually, what's exciting and terrifying, is that I am also on the organizing committee, as a representative of SWAN, the Sex Workers Action Network, that I'm a part of, with delegates from other organizations, social justice and social work
Yeah.
organizations, that are on the organizing committee for our local annual Take Back the Night March, which is a march about gender-based and sexual violence. And it's called Take Back the Night because it's literally about women marching in the street because women are not safe in the street at night.
Yeah.
Women and femmes. And so, yeah, I am on the organizing committee for that, but I also am going to be speaking at the event as a sex worker and as someone who has experienced sexual violence, both within sex work, within the context of sex work, but also outside of sex work, and speaking to the fact that it's not that sex work is inherently dangerous. It's that men are dangerous. Some men are dangerous to women, and our clients are men. And it's not that sex work is inherently dangerous. It's that the stigma against us by community members by police makes us ideal victims for predatory men. And it's that stigma that endangers us. And that's the focus of what I'll be talking about. But I will literally be standing in front of a crowd of my neighbors and local community members and calling myself a whore and out some of the more personal and life-changing experiences that I've had. So that is exciting and terrifying. That's going to be in September. But also with that, as an organizer, I was able to actually invite one of the homeless teens staying at Tent City, a 15-year-old girl. She is going to speak at the event, the Take Back the Night March, as well, with her experiences as a street-based girl and her what that has meant for her with regards to gender-based and sexual violence. And so I'm going to be working with her and sort of mentoring her, preparing her to do that, and we'll be kind of working together on our things, and it'll be scary and exciting for both of us. And I'm really, really, really hoping that this mentorship and this opportunity for her will help to start to instill a sense of value and self-worth and self-esteem, and give her her voice and let her see that she can, all of this anger and rage and that she has inside of her can be channeled productively. And also, because we'll be working on our speeches together, she'll be privy to hearing about some of my traumatic experiences in my life. And so it'll allow her to see that you can live through terrible things and come out the other side strong and happy, and living a life that you want to be living, which is how I would describe my life.
Yeah.
So.
You're definitely I'm not sure there's many people who are just overtly putting this out there like you are.
Right.
And I think that's what I get a lot of feedback about you, is like, man, I can't believe she's just putting it out there like that.
People tend to be, inspired by people who own themselves, all of themselves, and who, it's doing that shadow work. It's becoming comfortable with all aspects of yourself, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's like when you're good with that within yourself, you're just Teflon, because nobody can make me feel shitty about myself in ways. I really know who I am. I'm comfortable with who I am. I live according to my own personal integrity. And those values don't necessarily align with the values of the majority or the values of everyone, but I always try to do my best to make decisions and take actions that align with my personal values and my integrity, so I can sleep well at night knowing that I'm good with who I am. I'm not out there purposely hurting anybody. And if anything, I'm always trying to do the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So I like who I am. And I think that everybody should try. I think that the world would be a better place if there was more room for people to just be who the fuck they are.
Yeah.
And I think that the vast majority of people at their core are good. And it's when we are systemically pushed down and, marginalized and all of those things, that's what starts to make us deviate from
Yeah.
that, you know, because the vast majority of people aren't sociopaths or psychopaths.
I agree. So
whatever.
many good people.
know,
So many good people.
Want good, and they want to do good, and they want to be good, and they want people to feel good around them, and you know,
Yep.
like but there's so much fear of judgment and ridicule and all of those things. And like, I think the beauty in being a whore is that you're just embracing like a thing, knowing that most people hate that thing. Most people have negative ideas about that thing. And it's like, you're just like, I don't know. There's definitely like a deep well of like strength and resiliency and fortitude that I have seen and recognized in other sex workers. Yeah.
It's just, you know, it's like you said whore several times.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think for me, I am, you know, I grew up in the 80s. Have a program though of like hearing that. And I go, oh, I would never say that to you. You know what I mean? Like, then like you're saying it. And I'm like, okay, this is like throwing me. You know what I mean? It's like throwing me, you know?
Well, I mean, it's just like, it's a matter of like self-identification and reclamation of a word that's been made derogatory, but it actually isn't like at its like denotive like definition. It's not derogatory. It just means somebody who sells sexual services.
Yeah.
Right. But it's become so loaded. It's become so misogynistic. It's been a word that's been used to degrade women who don't participate.
Right. Right.
It's slut shaming, it's misogyny. And I just fully reject that.
Yeah.
Like, no, fuck you. Like, yeah, you can call me a whore. I am a whore. I am a proud whore. Jesus loves whores. I love whores. Whores are great. So yeah, I'm a whore.
Your Twitter is great about that. I love your Twitter about that. Like, I don't even go on Twitter. Honestly, I've only been on yours. I don't go on Twitter. I only went on yours because I was thinking about last time when you were on and somebody called you a name. You're like, yeah, but that's true. Like, like they called you a cocksucker or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, okay. And
definitely suck a lot of cocks.
You're like, thank you.
Very accurate observation. Yeah.
You are accurate, my friend. Like you just, that's something
soon, actually got one lined up.
You got some dick to suck today? I mean,
then I'm going to take that money and I'm going to go buy food for
it's unbelievable.
Food, so.
But see, that's what I mean about you. Do you realize I understand all about privilege and people, and we talked a little bit, but do you realize like how you sound, how this is so counterintuitive for even many people who are in your industry? Like,
yeah,
like you're a fucking diamond. like seriously. Yes, I was pumped about. I was like, man, people. And I was interested because I never worried about getting deplatformed or canceled. I don't give a shit about that stuff. I just put out this art to me. I talked to who I talked to, whatever. I mean, people were loving it. They're like, who is this? I was like, there'll be more of this. I don't care. I just want people to see behind the curtain. That's my biggest thing. Right. What are you making your judgment on? Is it about the platform, or do you actually look behind the curtain before the person comes out and understand what it's about? Like, I guarantee people are not going to see your activism coming. No way. There's no way they're going to think she's a whore. There's no way they're into this stuff. Guarantee, you know? Yeah,
no, for sure. And the thing is that that's so far from reality, because when you look at the sex work community, like mutual aid is so prevalent in the sex worker community, because sex workers fall through the cracks. Sex workers get left behind. When bad shit happens to us, people don't give a fuck. They think we are incurring what we deserve and are asking for. So when a sex worker gets raped, when a sex worker gets robbed, when a sex worker gets caught up in a police sting and arrested, when a sex worker gets sick and can't pay their rent because they can't see clients, whatever the fuck, you will see other sex workers rallying and organizing and taking care of these sex workers without personally knowing them, because we won't leave each other behind, because we know that everybody else will leave us behind. It is up to us to take care of each other. So mutual aid in the sex worker community, charity, whatever the fuck you want to call it, but we take care of each other. We make each other safe. We can't depend on police that's not unique to the sex
No,
worker.
that's definitely not unique. Let me tell you.
But we can't depend on the police to keep us safe. So we run our own networks to spread information. We run our own blacklists. We run our own communication lines to make sure that we're protecting each other when there are predators out there preying on us. We do the mutual aid thing, like, and like we just do. Like, honestly, the best person probably to ask for help is a whore, because if we have it, we'll give it usually. And yeah, it's not rare. I'm not rare within the sex work community, I would say. I mean, I'm a unique individual, but being a sex worker who is politically active, who is active in the social justice organizing scene, that's not that rare in the sex work community.
But people don't know that. Like, a lot of people don't know that. The rareness is you're actually putting it out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I've tried really hard actually to be sharing a lot of the social justice stuff that I'm doing on my Twitter platform. Yeah, my Twitter is just like, it's raw, it's real.
Yes, it is.
I share everything about my life, really, like my personal life, my social justice life, my sex work life, my family life, all of it. I'm very open and honest about. Recently, I had a severe bout of depression that I think just came from not balancing very good self-care and my schedule being so out of whack. I used to be in bed at night at 10 p.m. and up at 6 a.m. person. And now I'm like doing, various shifts at the tent city. So sometimes I'm there until 4 a.m. Sometimes, like one time I did a 20-hour overnight solo security shift and didn't sleep for like 30 hours. I got home from doing a tent city shift. I left my shift at 4:30 a.m. this morning. I got to sleep probably around 6:30 a.m. and then got a few hours of broken sleep before hopping in the shower and hopping on here to talk to you. So, and then after this, I'm going to be cooking some food and bringing dinner to the tent city. I'm not on shift, but so all of the homeless teens, and it's just a small group. There's about 6 of them. They've taken to calling me mom. So they have like what they call like street moms. And usually their street mom would be a homeless adult, but I've always been a nurturer. I am a mom, and I've been a mom for my entire adulthood because I had my eldest, my 17-year-old, when I was 20. So my entire adulthood, I've been a mom, but I was a little mom even as a child. I was always taking care of other people, and my friends have always jokingly called me mom because I'm taking care of the
Yeah.
little things. And now these homeless youth have taken to calling me mom, and they tell me they love me, and they are so desperate for that nurturing, unconditional supportive love, that the one thing that's absolutely fascinating to me is not one of the teen boys has ever objectified or sexualized or hit on me in any manner at all. I get it nonstop from the adult men at Tent City. And, you know, even in the past, like my son's teen friends, guys or whatever, you know, oh, your mom's hot or whatever, right? But these homeless teen boys have never once treated me in that manner. And it's because they are so desperate for that
Right.
mother nurturing love. They don't see me in that way. They just see a mom. They see that mom figure. And I'm telling you, like, they've got a clutch on my heart now in a way that, like, I can't get them out of my head. So it doesn't matter whether I'm at Tent City or not, they're at the forefront of my mind. I'm constantly thinking about things they need, things they could use, planning out what to get for them, and worrying about them, and thinking about, you know, the things they've confided in me. And, you know, I wish that I was rich. I wish that I could just take them all in and, you know, rebuild them and just let them be kids. Because the most heartbreaking thing about these youth is that they never get reprieve from their reality. The only reprieve they get from their reality is drugs.
Right.
It's the only way. They don't have the luxury. They don't have smartphones. They don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have computers. They don't have TV. They don't have any of the distractions that most kids have to distract them from their minor life problems. And these kids are dealing with severe trauma and abuse histories. And on top of that, their current reality is being triggered and re-traumatized by witnessing all of the things that they witness on the streets. They're seeing people overdose.
Yeah.
They are living realities that most adults couldn't fucking handle. And they are forced to be what most people would observe as obnoxious, like asshole little tough guys, but they are terrified, traumatized children, literally sleeping in tents, surrounded by people with mental health issues, people using hard substances, people predator, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they have to project a toughness at all times. They cannot afford to indulge for a second their trauma, their triggers, their heartbreak, their fears, their anything that shows weakness. And they flash weapons and they talk shit and they, you know, front with each other and other people.
Yeah.
And at the surface observational level, it looks like shitty, obnoxious, annoying teens doing drugs, making bad choices, being assholes to people. But when you actually look at it, it is literally these children who don't get to be fucking children,
Yeah.
who don't get to indulge or explore or grow their softer side, their deeper sides, who don't, like, every child deserves and needs at a fundamental level that safe, soft person to confide in, to lay their shoulder on, to be weak around. My 17-year-old son, when he was here visiting in April, because he does the hockey boarding school in another province in Saskatchewan. So when he was here on break in April, he was dealing with a heartbreak. And he spent one night, like, literally just sobbing in my arms about this heartbreak. And, that's literally just, a romantic heartbreak.
Yeah.
And he got to have that safe space to break down and be vulnerable and all of that. And these kids don't get that safe space. They don't have that safe person. And they're dealing with problems that most adults will never have to fucking, like, ever even think about. And it breaks my heart 10,000 times a minute. Like, and I recognize myself in them and my past, because I also didn't have that unconditional parental love that wasn't dysfunctional or abusive or whatever. And I struggled for a long time, and I've made a lot of bad decisions in my life. I've dealt with substance abuse issues in the past. I have made all kinds of bad choices over the years and done all kinds of shitty things in my struggle to deal with the overwhelming pain that I had from the trauma that I had in my life and the lack of unconditional love and support that I had in my life. And I see that in these kids, and then I see my own children and the difference, because I was so intent on giving that love and validation and emotional support to my own kids. And I've seen what that has done for them and the freedom that they have to be, just be kids and to depend on me and to not worry about shit. And that's why I'm obsessed. And that's why it's such a compulsion for me, because when I come home and I get to take that hot shower and I get to crawl into my soft bed, I know that the kids I've just left behind don't have those luxuries. I know that I can then break down and cry for an hour if I need to.
Yeah.
They don't have that luxury. I know that I can put on Seinfeld and zone out and just take that mental break from the harshness of the realities that I'm living and observing. And they don't have that luxury. And I feel like nothing is more compelling to me right now than trying to do whatever I can to make them have little tastes of getting to be kids. And they have given me a love and a trust and a respect that I never asked for. And I feel a huge, huge sense of responsibility in that, because I don't want to be yet another person that's failed them or let them down or abandoned them or I'm sorry, I'm getting choked.
I see how emotional this is for you. I see it. I mean, just like, you're a good person, Aubrie. You really are. And I think that's what I want to do with a lot of this stuff is, talk to people in places that people think that, oh, what are they doing? Like,
Yeah.
like this isn't a good, how can they be a good person, with what they're doing? And then,
No, I'm a degenerate. I'm just
right.
like a low
Me
life
too.
degenerate, in society.
Yeah, they just think they just think you're in some, you're in some tunnel doing weird stuff with people. But it's
Yeah,
great to this. You don't know anybody until you actually listen and spend time with them and their stories. So,
so true.
man, I feel your emotion, and man, just another good time being with you, and a different side of you this time to explore. So, thank you so much for giving me your time again.
Thank you for allowing me to share this with you and with all of your listeners or viewers. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't use this opportunity to solicit donations for Tent City. So you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Aubrie Pesky, AubriePesky. You can private message me on there. And if you're interested in donating, all donations go directly to supplies for the camp, to food, to ice for the coolers, to propane for the cooking stove, to tents and sleeping bags for people who don't have them, and also to clothing items for
Yep.
youth, those kinds of things, hygiene supplies, harm reduction supplies, all of those things. So every little bit helps, and I'd be ever so grateful for any donations, for
Well,
anybody who feels compelled to give.
definitely have your Twitter out there, and
Or
man, what a
conversely, if you don't want to directly support Tent City in little old Kitchener, Ontario, Canada, I would encourage all of your listeners to find out how they can support in their own local communities, because
yeah,
this crisis is everywhere. It's a humanitarian crisis,
most
and
definitely
the divide between rich and poor is just ever growing, and
growing.
that
Yeah,
middle class is just ever shrinking. And so many people don't realize how little it can take, and how just one or two unfortunate circumstances can completely change your life circumstances. None of
yep,
these people intended to be homeless. None of
right,
them intended to be
of
homeless. None
course,
of them want to be homeless. None of them enjoy being homeless. And once you do become homeless, the system is designed to keep you stuck.
right.
It is so hard to claw your way back out, and
Gotcha.
the barriers that just keep piling on keep you in a cycle of poverty. And the system is designed to do that, and it works very well to do
You
that.
definitely need to be speaking about this more often, because you had like your passion and just your knowledge there. It's up there. So I'm glad you could be on here and provide that. So
Thank
I
you.
really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much for having me.
Of course, it'll be another time, I'm
Meet
sure.
again too. I enjoy you. You're
Thank
just
you.
you as a person. You're very lovely to talk to speak
Thank
with.
you, Aubrie. Appreciate it. All right. Lovely, Aubrie, everyone. Thank you so much.